Humanoids, they're not good or bad, a bunch of different things, but they're not necessarily the perfect tool for every task. The mobile manipulators that look more like arms on mobile platforms are better suited.
Hey everybody, welcome to Beyond the Bench. We've got a really exciting show for you all today. We have joining us Ari Eisenstein, co-founder, CTO of Pickle Robotics. Crazy new world models that are coming out, and NVIDIA is open sourcing a ton. Is that like super relevant to your work?
Google and NVIDIA, they're building these foundation models that are trained off of a corpus of data that's coming from YouTube videos, some robotics labs. We are certainly evaluating all of the new tech, really inspired by a lot of the things out of physical intelligence.
Do you think that the true year of mass deployment robots is like next year, or do you think we're still 2-3 years out?
I think it's next year.
Hi everybody, welcome to Beyond the Bench, where we discuss taking hardware through production and the stories along the way. My name is Bill Brock, CEO of Peridio, the ecosystem for building and maintaining advanced embedded products.
Hey everybody, welcome to Beyond the Bench podcast. We've got a really exciting show for you all today. My name is Bill Brock, CEO of Peridio, and today we have joining us Ari Eisenstein from co-founder, CTO of Pickle Robotics. Ari, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So obligatory intros. Would love to just hear a little bit more about Pickle, and then we'll dive in from there.
So Pickle is a physical AI company based out of Charleston, Massachusetts. We were founded in 2018, looking at sort of the world of robotics and AI. And in 2018, robots really started to be able to do things with their hand. And we were seeing what was happening in self-driving and academia and said, okay, the time to, bring manipulation to the world at large, past the universities, is now. And we spent kind of a couple months really looking at a bunch of industries to try to find, where we thought the frontier space where we could really make an impact was. And we landed in logistics and specifically Epic. And we are currently shipping our first product, an unload robot that's, at over 20 sites and growing into next year.
Heck yeah. And where are your where are these, probably can't say customer names on a radio show, but where are, or maybe you can, but like where are you like geographically shipping these right now?
So primarily we're on the coast. So think up and down the East Coast, on the ports. Can't say all the customers, but think brands like Ryobi, Hoover, Randa Apparel, and we have a couple of installations in the Midwest, Texas area as well.
Killer. And why logistics? Why was that the initial beachhead?
So when you go into warehouse or distribution warehouse, you see a ton of boxes. And if you talk to someone approaching the problem from academia, coming out of school, they say, oh, this looks like Block's World, which is a very standard machine learning robotics problem that you get on a P set. And, how would you stack the blocks? And then you start to spend time in these warehouses and you see all the variations and all of the ways in which a box isn't really a cube, but actually something very deformable. And you realize it's an open world problem that looks straightforward at the top and has a lot of complexity hiding underneath. So that's the technological approach. And then, from a kind of business, but also a philosophical approach, when you look at the doctor in particular, you've got shipping containers and trailers. They're exposed to the elements, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, back-breaking labor, these repetitive motions with boxes up to 70 pounds. And people really sort of destroy their bodies doing this. And so we said, this is really a need in the market. There's a ton of labor doing this that really doesn't want to be. We see turnover rates of over 100% at some customer sites. And it isn't sort of the best use human sort of creativity and dexterity. And so both from a technological as well as a business, as well as this is a good thing to pursue. That's why you ended up in logistics.
Very cool. And there's a lot of folks doing humanoids. You are not a humanoid company. Can you talk to me a little bit about like the actual like robot arm, the form factor, the consider like where you're deploying this and why you're I'm gonna get the words wrong. I'm not a robotics person, but like why the arm is the way it is, or like the actual like how you're fitting this to the environment that it's working.
Absolutely. So we look at this in terms of, as I was saying, the human form factor isn't really ideally designed for boxes stacked in containers and trailers.
We didn't evolve as, out of the cave, to sort, square shapes.
Exactly. And so, we said, okay, you do want a manipulator, you do want an arm, you want mobility, so it's on a mobile platform, and you want to be able to operate at the rates that, is necessary for customer success, which we believe is achievable with a mobile manipulator, a single arm mobile manipulator that's sort of more integrated into that kind of box-like space and has the strength and speed necessary to execute this task. And humanoids they're not, good or bad. They're good at a bunch of different things, but they're not necessarily the perfect tool for every task. And we believe in certainly trailer unload and load. The mobile manipulators that look more like arms on mobile platforms are better suited.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the actual like gripping functionality, how does that work?
So we have a suction-based gripper. We have tested a bunch of different gripping technologies over the years, and we still continue to do so out in our lab out in Charleston. Found that suction is both effective for the weight of packages that we need to handle. So I'll cite 70 pounds a couple of times because that's sort of the OSHA standard for a single person lift. Also robust to a variety of package types. As we move forward, looking at sort of augmenting that suction capability with some new bips and bobs that hopefully we'll see in 2026, but primarily suction based.
Cool. And the actual like AI technology in here, and like looking at your profile right now, you're out of MIT, done a lot of hard work with Leaf Labs, says FPGA engineer. Um, and then, the world is like, FPGAs are awesome. I actually don't know enough about that world, but I feel like we're kind of moving from FPGAs to more like GPU heavy workloads. Like what is some of the like foundational technical architecture that's actually happening at the robot?
Yeah, for sure. So my background was a sort of computer vision background, which, I graduated in 2015 and the computer vision world was being lit on fire as I was leaving school. And that's where we sort of started our AI machine learning kind of at Pickle, which is taking this sort of high entropy data out of cameras and saying, what can we figure out where to take our suction gripper? The great thing about suction grippers is it's like a pick and stick. So if I just get the gripper to the right place, the package will stick to it. And so your models didn't need to be as smart, which was really great in like 2018 to 2020 when we didn't know what a large model was yet. And so we proved out, we can predict from images and from like an online training algorithm where to stick the gripper to successfully pick up packages. As we have grown and as the world sort of has evolved, we've started to see and started to prove to ourselves that you can use learning in more than perception and kind of planning level tasks, and that it actually has applicability to sort of the action domain. So you can use learning to understand how to adjust the specific actions and paths for, like, when I say actions, I'm talking about the like actions that the arm is taking as the trajectory is executing. So that's sort of our 2026 thrust forward. We've proven out some things to ourselves in 2025 and looking to bring them to market in 2026.
And the world is moving very, very fast right now, and I'm sure we're all watching a lot of the same companies, and like Google and physical AI and or the Pi. It's physical, or I forget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Anyway,
physical intelligence.
yeah, physical intelligence. That's right. I mean, these are crazy new world models that are coming out, and NVIDIA is open sourcing a ton. Is that like super relevant to your work? Or you guys already like kind of further downstream? You figured out a lot of the path planning, and like how much are you able to adopt from the new tech?
So we are certainly evaluating all of the new tech and really inspired by a lot of the things out of physical intelligence. Keep up on what Google's doing, keep up on what NVIDIA's doing, and what physical intelligence for sure is doing because they're open sourced and their papers are out there. But but also Google and NVIDIA, they're building these foundation models that are trained off of a corpus of data that's coming from YouTube videos, some robotics labs, and they're trying to build up these data sets to rival the internet, which is what the LLMs were trained off of. But if you sort of dig into their work and they say, okay, here's how we really think that these things will be successful, what you see is that after like the foundation model is trained, you do this so-called fine-tuning step where you say, okay, specific task I want to do, and to achieve a high success rate on that, I need to add a specific set of demonstrations and primarily robotic like demonstrations with a robotic arm on top of that foundational model to achieve task success. I think Pickle has always said, we certainly have a lot of robotic demonstrations, and are very willing to sort of take the learnings of companies that have the investment of, I have a giant robotics lab to do a generalized foundation model, but fine tune it to our needs. So absolutely excited about the progress in that space.
How much is Google open sourcing?
Um, not it is not as open sourced as, I would like. They have a partner program. We opted not to participate for just some language that we didn't, quite wasn't didn't sit right with us. I think, Google will share research and will share, APIs and libraries and usage, and I use Gemini for a bunch of stuff, so, am a fan. But specifically with, like, Gemini Robotics, that hasn't made it to the open source community yet.
Makes sense. You've got a really interesting background. Tell me about like, and you're not a roboticist. You've AI and computer vision, found your way into robotics. Like, what has the learning journey been like from you going from like vision systems to driving like CTO at a really leading edge robot company? Like, you've come into hardware. Tell me a little bit about that.
I described myself to AJ when we founded this as a roboticist with a black box problem. The black box problem where I needed to open the black box. And specifically, I went to college and I was like, I'm gonna do robots, but every single problem in robotics is really interesting. And the way I found myself getting into FPGAs was I was in a robotics lab and we had a bunch of sensors hooked up to our test robot, and like we couldn't get the data rate we needed. I was like, this is no good. Like we need this data in here. It needs to be clean. I ended up in the low level embedded programming space there, and then sort of found my way into a computer vision lab, basically doing similar work for them, but with FPGAs. And it was always your background is very interesting to me because it's like the hardware necessary to bring in, especially in the physical AI space, because we need to bring in the sensor data fast enough that we can use it counteract gravity, basically. And so getting the computational system right, really understanding that, was how went from a roboticist to like an embedded engineer at Leaf Labs, which and so when AJ approached me about, I'm thinking about, this AJ, my co-founder, CEO of Pickle, president of Leaf Labs, approached me and said, I'm thinking about this robotics company. What do you think of robots? I was like, I love them. It was like, oh, that's awesome. And so what I always said was being a Pickle and being CTO allows me to touch all of those very interesting problems in robotics, and really get to experience all of them, and sort of dive in where is most needed for the company. But it's all very interesting. So
And when you took this role, um, I mean, it's a startup, but you all are 7 years into the journey now. Did you like how long did you think that it would take before you guys knew that you were really onto something? Everything's super leading edge. You're finding a new market, and what was that kind of like that thought process in the first like 1-2 years of the company?
So the second year of the company was 2020. And it's a really interesting thing to be leading a technical team at a robotics company through a pandemic. So um,
Yeah, you can't do that very well remote.
your remote tooling gets really good. And your ability to personally run the robot also gets really good. But when did we I think that it's interesting because I there have been sort of these series of challenges that we've, had to find a way to hit this milestone, find a way to make this delivery, find a way to hit this customer, user acceptance test. And it for me, it doesn't feel like it was one big moment like, "Oh, we've made it." But it's sort of each time you push through one of those, eventually it starts to become familiar where you're like, "Okay, like, time to buckle down, but we've done this before." And I think, when I think about Pickle and our robotics journey, we absolutely don't want to end at unload, and we don't wanna end at load, and we don't wanna end at palletize. We really want to deliver physical AI platform for robotics, software platform for robotics that can generalize to tasks across the warehouse, outside of the warehouse. And for me, delivering that is far more about a company culture and an ability to innovate, but also deliver production reliability and deliver customer satisfaction.
Yeah. Tell me about the team. Tell me about the culture.
The team is super smart. That's, one of the things that I always come back to is, anytime you engage in a conversation with someone at Pickle, they have really interesting ideas and they're really excited to talk about them. They are, we have these value we have a set of values, and one of them is creative conflict. And so I always take that as a bunch of B plus ideas bump into each other and they make an A plus idea. And we have cultivated a team with a bunch of different perspectives and a bunch of different experiences, both in robotics as well as in other industries, as well as outside of maybe the traditional technical space. And it's really fun to put all those perspectives into a room and sort of try to just solve the problem, because you'll get kind of four solutions coming from four different directions. Pretty well pedigreed, MIT, Olin, Cornell, pulling from, other like Boston's robotics mecca. Everyone knows someone who's worked at Kiva. Plenty of people here, alum from Berkshire Grey, alum from Cognex. Just sort of a top-notch team all around, built from both the young people coming out of university with all the change that's coming on, as well as the people who've been sort of delivering robotics to the production space that kind of have been in the Boston area for a hot minute.
And when you're looking to bring on a new role, what are you looking for? What are like your top three screening questions?
It's funny that I've already mentioned creative conflict, because that's kind of the one of the places I go, which is, do you come into this building with a set of convictions that it's not like you're gonna, quit the day someone challenges you, but that, you have strong opinions, and you're willing to articulate them and discuss them. And for me now, is in like as where I'm interviewing people, especially for technical roles, I'm curious about like what in the industry is making you excited. Academic lab, is it a set of papers? Is it companies? Is it businesses? If you're in more of a business facing role. And then comfort with uncertainty and unknowns, because this industry is changing fast. To solve the hard problems, you might need to try something you don't know how to do. And I became a startup founder at 26. Like, I didn't know how to do anything. So welcome to the club.
Yeah, I don't think you learn how to do a startup until you do a startup. All right, so you mentioned not stopping at loading and unloading and building a platform for physical AI and software platform. How are you like reasoning about, and you are also in this moment where you guys are getting POs. You mentioned 20 deployments up and down the coast. How do you split your mind between being so excited that this thing is live, getting deployed, and going really, really deep on the current use case, make customers happy and focusing on there, and then also looking forward at the same time? So like what does that dual brain look like for you?
So that dual brain for me feels like the same ideas that power this AI software platform of the future can actually bring benefit to the customers we have today, and the deployments that we're looking to scale up in 2026. The beauty of software development is that you can test things in what is effectively simulation, and say, here's how it would react, and do that with actual customer data, and build conviction that these techniques, these modules will provide will solve customers' problems and can do so quickly. And that's how I live. And so I think Pickle has this incredible opportunity to prove these ideas of this software platform with our by delivering value to our current customers. And you have to have your current customers to do that. It's hard to sort of say, I have this platform, trust me, it'll work, versus we're delivering value to you and here's how we got more. And it's this thing, and we're looking to scale it up.
And when you're thinking about building a broader platform, are these more hardware solutions that you're looking like physical solutions that you're looking to bring into the Pickle Labs portfolio? Or are you looking to also partner or maybe acquire or whatever, like other robotics companies and bring them into the fold and get them engaged with Pickle?
Primarily partnership. So I think that I think Pickle sort of has a couple more hardware platforms in its future, but we absolutely don't want to be the sole provider of robotic hardware platforms. That's too much work, it's too much money. They're specialized. There's other people who understand those specialities in their domains. So yeah, we're looking to partner, we're looking to sort of we're starting to see, and I think it's caused by these sort of advances from companies like Physical Intelligence and Figure, where we're seeing, robotics hardware vendors in a way that wasn't so common, 3 to 4 years ago, and looking to use those solutions as well to say, okay, whatever the hardware is, this sort of AI software platform, it is able to be effective on it.
Slight tangent. You mentioned simulation. I'm really excited about all the like sim to real stuff we're seeing out of NVIDIA and others, and like the whole like the Matrix thing of like I know Kung Fu now. The Do you think that like digital twins are now like actually relevant? We've kind of been talking about this for like 15 years. It seems like it actually kind of is starting to make sense.
So, my perspective on simulation, and I reserve the right to get smarter in the next 6 months, is you need the right you need the right simulator for the right job. And NVIDIA has this massive, suite of various tools, and so I think they're starting to cover the whole spread. The one place where I'm still evaluating simulation is the dynamic environment. So we use a simulation platform called Drake, came out of MIT and Russ Tedrick's lab, that really does they've really put a lot of care into modeling the dynamics effectively. And the challenge with that is, unlike some of the simulators that have less physical fidelity, you can't run it much faster than real time. It's just like massively computationally expensive. That being said, there are other things to simulate and other pieces of the system that we can simulate and do so faster than real time, overnight, what have you, that we're getting a ton of utility out of right now. So super excited about specifically a lot of the advances NVIDIA is making. Still that dynamics is like the final piece that, I still need to see a little bit more proof.
Well, what I really like about you and Pickle, I'm sure you feel like one and the same, is that you all have been operating for 6, 7 years now. And what's really interesting is like you're grounded in reality and you're serving customers, you're doing work right now, you've got multiple deployments. And we work closely with NVIDIA. And I just keep thinking like NVIDIA is like 4 years ahead of the market in many ways. And I'm excited to see the really like grounded use cases and practical applications there. And I really appreciate that you all have done the hard work of learning the market, putting the robot out, working with real customers. You're successful. And it's a really interesting bridge to see, okay, that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years. How do we start to bring this stuff in and adopt it in our platform? Whereas I think that if you're starting a robotics company from zero right now, and you just adopting the truly leading edge tools, you're going to miss out on a lot of truly important foundational learning over like before all this stuff is readily available.
It's it can be a little bit, the reason why I personally am so bullish on looking at the NVIDIA tool set and making sure I understand what physical intelligence and companies are doing, is that these robotics companies starting, like, that's where they're starting their baseline from. And we had to enter the market before a lot of this was as baked as it is now. And we're able to be successful. And it was through a lot of hard work and through, as you said, sort of understanding the customer and understanding the use cases. And we really feel that that learning is so critical and is going to allow us to maintain this sort of critical advantage. Just having that depth of knowledge and being in the field and encountering all of those edge cases.
We are right now at the very end of 2025. I don't know if we'll get this episode out before or after Christmas, but it is a really nice time to like. What do you think that like the true year of mass deployment robots is like next year? Or do you think we're still 2-3 years out before this is? But I mean, it feels like we are right at the moment.
I think it's next year.
Yeah,
I think, and
very
I
cool.
hope that Pickle is, and I say that because I think Pickle will be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm glad that we met. I'm gonna make sure we get time for coffee or something in Boston soon. But really, really lucky to have you on the show and appreciate all the shared DNA and friendship through Leaf Labs. For anybody who's wanting to learn more about Pickle, where do they go to find out?
Picklerobot.com. See what we're up to.
Awesome. Well, Ari, this was awesome. Thank you. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Next time. Thanks.
All right, everybody, just a quick reminder, this podcast is presented by Peridio, the ecosystem for building and maintaining advanced embedded products.